It hadn't been long since Snape took over as the office manager, but he immediately decided to overhaul the existing operations. His first action was to slash the salaries, except his own. Driven by greed, he reduced the pay of nearly all staff members. Many handed in their resignation letters almost immediately, and those who stayed only did so because they had no better options. The rest of the staff bore the brunt of Snape's oppressive policies, with nearly half the employees quitting. Some roles were redundant, so their departure wasn't entirely disastrous. However, those who remained found their workload doubled, often staying late to cope. Even the janitor, who was already poorly paid, decided to quit, leaving the office without essential cleaning services. Finding a replacement willing to work for such low wages proved a significant challenge. The HR manager, Mrs. Bennet, pleaded daily with Snape to increase the janitor's salary, arguing that no one would accept the job for such low pay. During staff meetings, Snape would rant each morning about the growing dirt and dust in the office, which was indeed getting dirtier by the day. During one particularly tense meeting, Snape was berating everyone about the state of the office. The branch had been running smoothly before his arrival, but now it was in disarray. After reviewing the weekly reports, Snape fixated on the janitor vacancy. "If you don't find a janitor soon, I'll have to add cleaning to your responsibilities," he nearly shouted at the HR manager. She felt an urge to escape from this oppressive environment but knew that it wouldn't be easy to find another job at her age. Finding a job was not easy, so each time Ryan brought up his unreasonable demands, Mrs. Bennet would silently endure, later retreating to her office to take anti-anxiety pills. At the following meeting, the manager again expressed dissatisfaction with Mrs. Bennet's performance, pointing out that the janitor position remained unfilled. "Is it that difficult to find a cleaner? We're so successful that anyone would want to work for a stable company," Ryan growled, slowly approaching the window. At some point, he froze and stared out the window, focusing on something in the distance. A poorly dressed woman was meticulously stacking cardboard boxes near the garbage cans. A slight smile formed on Ryan's face. He turned to Mrs. Bennet and said, "So, you're saying no one wants to join our company for that pay, huh? Watch and learn, rookies." He opened the window wide since it was warm outside. "Hey, you there, come in for a minute. I have an offer you might want to hear," Ryan shouted, but the woman continued her work without pause. The boss, surprised but persistent, showed excitement in his eyes. "Hey, do you need some cash? Get over here," he shouted again, but the woman kept working. Irritated, he turned to Mrs. Bennet and told her to get the security guard. When the security guard arrived, Ryan instructed him, "Get the woman by the dump here ASAP." A few minutes later, the woman entered the office. After several failed attempts to communicate with her, it became clear that she was completely deaf. She had a hearing aid that wasn't functioning correctly or cheaply. The woman appeared to be around 30 years old. Surprisingly, up close, she looked elegant. Her hands were clean, as were her clothes and hair. The absence of makeup made her face look even younger and more radiant. Her hair was neatly combed and gathered in a bun. Her clothes, though poor, were clean, albeit ill-fitting. At least they didn't smell. The boss, apparently remembering that deaf people can read lips, began pronouncing each syllable slowly. "Do you understand what I am saying?" he asked. The girl nodded. "Do you want a job? You don't have to do much, clean the office," he finished. The girl stood there silently for a couple of minutes, looking around, then nodded in agreement, which made Ryan rise in victory. He was so proud of himself. He turned to Mrs. Bennet, who was quietly watching the scene. "Can't find a cleaning lady? Perhaps you just forgot how to hire people. Well, here's a lesson for you. That worthless piece of crap was ready even for a smaller salary." He paused, then added, "By the way, before you announce it to her, maybe think about cutting it down a little bit." But when he saw Mrs. Bennet's look, he realized he was pushing it too far, and even the homeless girl would run away for that kind of pay, so he dropped the idea. The deaf girl started working. Her name was Laura, and she always arrived at the office on time, sometimes even long before the workday began. She diligently washed, cleaned, and wiped everything she encountered. In just a week, the office was unrecognizable. However, This did not improve the team's attitude towards their deaf colleague, who often became the target of cruel and teasing jokes. They would mock her behind her back and laugh, knowing she couldn't hear them. Despite her low-quality, old hearing aid, she could still catch nasty things people said about her and her work. Despite the constant harassment, Laura maintained her composure, having endured much. She always looked forward to leaving work and returning to her peaceful home on the outskirts of town, where she lived in an old, abandoned shack. Laura was not alone. She had taken in several stray pets, including 3 kittens, a cat, 2 dogs, and a parrot with a broken paw. These animals were her constant companions, and she endured the teasing and ridicule at work to provide for them. Her pets were her source of comfort and love, and their presence helped her cope with the daily abuse. At night, while she might have only bread and water for herself, she always had something delicious for her furry friends. Their loving glances made up for a hard day's work. Mrs. Bennett was highly pleased with Laura, whose work kept the office spotless. Despite her colleagues' continued mocking behind her back, Ryan remained unimpressed with her work. He couldn't quite put his finger on what he wanted from her, but over time, her silent demeanor and intelligent eyes began to Laura's silent demeanor and intelligent eyes began to earn her the respect of her colleagues. Even those who had previously mocked her started to realize that her past was far more complex than they had imagined. Despite being a beggar, Laura was well-spoken and literate. Her brief but insightful remarks often left her colleagues taken aback, revealing a deep understanding of many topics she chose not to flaunt. It became clear to them that her current situation did not reflect her intelligence or abilities. The office atmosphere had grown tense and stressful under Ryan's aggressive leadership. Every morning, during meetings, he seemed to blame others for the company's poor performance, which had begun to decline dramatically due to his mismanagement. As a result, Ryan, increasingly bitter, started letting go of employees regularly, often firing multiple people at once. This only added to the hostile atmosphere and uncertainty among the remaining staff. Rumors circulated among coworkers that soon, Ryan would be the only one left in the office. The company's owner and CEO, Liam, began visiting more frequently, likely due to the branch's sudden decline in profits. However, Ryan used these visits as opportunities to intimidate and pressure the employees, trying to create a positive image for Liam. Despite Ryan's efforts, Liam, who had built the company from the ground up, was determined not to let it fail and planned to take action to turn things around. After several visits to what was once one of his most successful branches, Liam noticed that while the office appeared to function well on the surface, there was a palpable sense of unease among the employees. After another visit, Liam announced that the company was undergoing a thorough cleaning process and that all employees, including the manager, would be given a paid day off. Anyone who refused would still be paid. While everyone was away, Liam installed hidden cameras throughout the office connected to his personal computer. He wanted to uncover the truth about what was happening and take action to salvage the business he had built through hard work. Liam dedicated himself to monitoring the office daily from when it opened until it closed, meticulously gathering information and evidence to understand the reasons behind the branch's decline. One day, during a meeting, Liam was presented with a well-crafted business development plan that caught him off guard. He quickly read through the material and looked up at Ryan in surprise. "What is this?" Liam asked, holding up the business plan. "Who prepared it?" Ryan realized Liam was intrigued by the material and modestly lowered his gaze, replying, "I worked very hard on it, sir. I didn't sleep for several nights. I hope you like it." The first thing that struck Liam as odd was the neat, feminine handwriting. He had read multiple reports Ryan wrote and was familiar with his scrawled handwriting. Further investigation gave Liam more clues that Ryan's mind was as convoluted and erratic as his handwriting. Liam viewed the recorded videos and was shocked to discover that the cleaning lady had spent significant time working on the papers late into the night. She was focused and engrossed in her work, not keeping track of the time. She effortlessly created graphs and diagrams, as if she had been doing it for years. Liam was upset that he had overlooked so many things at his branch. The following day, Ryan was summoned to Liam's office. He came rushing in, but as soon as he saw the expression on Liam's face, he suddenly stopped. He stood there, looking down at the ground as Liam scolded him. Everyone in the office was too afraid to speak or move, fearing the boss's wrath. Do you realize your deceit and deception nearly destroyed this branch? Liam started furiously. I am astounded at the number of high-class employees I've lost due to your arrogant behavior. You fired all the best workers I've worked hard to handpick for so long. Let me explain, Ryan stammered. I don't need your explanation, Liam cut him off. I thought, okay, maybe Ryan's testing some technique. But when you attempted to take credit for someone else's work, that was the last straw. Liam calmed down, sighed, and said, you have 10 minutes to get your stuff and leave. The once confident manager suddenly appeared defeated, the color draining from his face as he approached the exit. As he left, he heard Liam ask the secretary to bring in the cleaning lady, a young deaf woman named Laura. As soon as Laura silently entered the office, Liam gestured for her to sit down. Please, take a seat. I want to know more about you. You're intelligent and haven't been disadvantaged all your life, Liam began. The girl, a bit confused, confirmed this as she started speaking. Liam realized that despite her deafness, she was brilliant. She looked out the window as she said softly, sharing her story. Laura grew up in a very low-income family but loved learning from a young age. Despite the difficult circumstances of her household, where her parents would drink heavily and engage in drunken fights at night, she worked hard on her studies. From the 3rd grade, until she graduated, she sought refuge in an abandoned house near her apartment to study when her parents were drinking. In the mornings, she would slip back home quietly to grab her clothes and backpack while her family was still asleep and rush to school. Despite the challenging circumstances, Laura excelled in her studies and was accepted into a business school. She was a bright and determined student, well liked by her teachers. Laura had a natural ability to understand concepts quickly and was always willing to assist her classmates. It came as no surprise that she graduated with the highest GPA. Business administration was her favorite subject and her lifelong aspiration. There, she first met Colin, who was a year older. They fell in love at first sight in the university's hallway. However, Colin's wealthy family disapproved of their relationship, particularly the idea of their son marrying a smart but financially challenged woman. Despite this, their love was strong, and Colin proposed to Laura, expressing his desire to spend the rest of his life with her. Laura and her fiancé Colin visited friends outside the city one day. They were in high spirits, especially since they were due to get married in a week. As they were getting close to their friend's country house, where everyone was already waiting for them, a dense fog suddenly descended. Everything around them was white and hazy. They didn't even realize when the headlights of an oncoming car shone right into their windshield. There was a terrible screech of brakes and a crash. When Laura regained consciousness, she was already in an ambulance. The first thing Laura asked about was her fiancé's well-being. She fainted upon learning that he had passed away. When she woke in the hospital room, Laura immediately realized something had changed. From that moment on, she became deaf. The doctors were unable to explain the sudden loss of hearing and attributed it to stress. Despite her hearing loss and complex mental state, she pleaded with a doctor to allow her to attend her lover's funeral, but she was denied. Even the chance to visit his grave. Colin's parents blamed her for the accident and claimed that if it weren't for her and her broke friends, she wouldn't have gone to the country house. In the end, almost launching at her with her fists, Colin's mother hissed, "Bitch, I will make your life miserable. You can only get a job as a janitor at best. You will cry, regretting that you ruined my son." The only thing the poor girl regretted at that moment was that she didn't die instead of Colin. After all, no one needed her anyway. Her mother changed boyfriends like gloves and soon managed to burn down their house during a drinking spree with another one of them. Her life was full of losses: no job, home, love, or hearing. It was impossible to get a job. No one was interested in a deaf, fragile beggar. In the beginning, she taught herself how to read lips. After some time, she managed to earn some extra money by cleaning at the local market. She spent that money on a cheap hearing aid. It didn't restore her hearing completely, but it allowed her to hear some words. From then on, she just wandered around until she found a small shed where she could shelter. Despite her difficult circumstances, she never complained about her life because she had already seen so much unfairness. She was content with her beloved pets, who were her closest companions. The only problem was that when the weather turned cold, her pets would freeze since the room in the abandoned house was not heated. Even at that moment, she was worried about her pets' well-being. Liam sat there quietly, listening to her sad story. At the end of the story, he remembers the tragic accident involving Colin. He knew his wealthy parents and was saddened by what happened. That same day, he offered Laura, a highly qualified business graduate, the branch executive director position. When she agreed, he was delighted with the decision. The branch improved rapidly. Liam visited the branch frequently, sometimes even picking up Laura from work. At some point, everyone knew they were dating, and eventually, the news of their marriage became known. Liam made her a perfect gift. One day, he dropped by the branch after lunch and knocked on Laura's office door. When Liam entered, he saw that Laura was deeply engrossed in her work as usual. "Honey, take a break, will you? I got you something," he said. In his hands was a certificate, making her the owner of an animal shelter where all her pets were residing. As she settled into her new home with her husband, she would not have the time to take care of them in the foreseeable future. On top of everything, she was excitedly preparing for the arrival of a baby boy. When Liam heard the news, he was overjoyed. There was one more miracle in Laura's life that doctors couldn't explain. Her hearing suddenly returned as if it had never been gone, making her fully functional again. The businessman's large and spacious house was now filled with the warmth and comfort of a home. When Liam entered, he saw that Laura was deeply engrossed in her work as usual. "Honey, take a break, will you? I got you something," he said. In his hands was a certificate, making her the owner of an animal shelter where all her pets were residing. As she settled into her new home with her husband, she would not have the time to take care of them in the foreseeable future. On top of everything, she was excitedly preparing for the arrival of a baby boy. When Liam heard the news, he was overjoyed. There was one more miracle in Laura's life that doctors couldn't explain. Her hearing suddenly returned as if it had never been gone, making her fully functional again. The businessman's large and spacious house was now filled with the warmth and comfort of a home. Reflection and thoughts on the story and characters. The story of Laura and Liam is a poignant tale of resilience, love, and unexpected miracles. Laura's journey from hardship to happiness is a testament to the power of perseverance and the impact of compassion. Handling things differently. 1. Supportive environment *. Creating a supportive work environment is crucial. Unlike Ryan's oppressive management, fostering respect and understanding among colleagues can significantly impact someone's life. 2. Recognition of skills *. Recognizing and utilizing employees' hidden talents can lead to unexpected successes. Laura's abilities were initially overlooked, but they brought tremendous value to the company once acknowledged. 3. Compassion in leadership *. Liam's decision to listen and understand Laura's story changed the course of her life. Compasio Ryan leadership can transform not just businesses but also lives. 4. Mental health awareness *. Understanding and supporting mental health needs, like Laura's use of anti-anxiety pills, is essential in any workplace. For those experiencing difficult times, Laura's story is a reminder that persistence, self-belief, and the kindness of others can lead to better days. Everyone has unique challenges, but with support and determination, overcoming them is possible. If you enjoyed the story, please consider liking and subscribing for more content. Click the notification bell button. Thank you, and we'll see you soon.